Thank you, Andy. I hope we can all carry those words of courage with us in the future. It does take courage to fight fires or to face the other risks that firefighters face. It takes courage to deal with the often harrowing calls which are received in our emergency fire controls. But it also takes courage to stand up for what you believe in. And that courage can often be harder to find. And our progress over the last century ultimately comes down to men and women prepared to stand up for justice and to stand together in the name of fairness. And it is these men and women we remember and celebrate today. Like many trade unions, ours was founded on principles of compassion and of human solidarity. 100 years ago, most firefighters worked 14 days in every 15, on duty around the clock, isolated in the closed world of the fire station. Many earned less than manual labourers. The only support given to injured firefighters and bereaved families in their time of need was through funds established by fellow firefighters. Our very first members believed that people deserved to be treated fairly and to be able to do their work safely and to be looked after if the worst happened. And even as the profession and the service has changed, it is these beliefs which guide our members and our union today. And the profession has changed. Firefighters didn't always respond to road traffic collisions, or to floods, or to chemical spillages, or to terror attacks. Indeed, today we hear reports of our members, as we gather here today, out responding to floods in various parts of the country. So today, firefighters work to protect all of us from a whole range of hazards we face in the modern world. The Fire and Rescue Service rescues over 100 people across the UK every single day. Our members in the Fire and Rescue Service spend their careers dedicated to public service. And their work inevitably involves hazards and facing dangers. That is in the very nature of what we do. And on occasion, that means that they do consciously and deliberately risk their own lives to make others safe. And today, as we honour friends, family, comrades we have lost, we are reminded, as has been said, that when others are running away from dangers, firefighters are running towards it. They ask for little in return, no privilege, no praise, no gratitude. For firefighters, firefighting is quite simply their job, their chosen career. It is important to note that firefighting really is a team activity. It means we need training departments, we need planning, we need specialist technical knowledge so that we can develop modern procedures to tackle the hazards that we face. We need fire safety specialists, we need fire investigators, we need our emergency fire controls, the starting point for any emergency response. All of these are an essential part of the fire and rescue team. And whatever role they undertake, they are proud of what they do. It is indeed an honourable profession. All they ask is that they are able to do that job well and to have the support and resources they need in order to properly protect the communities they serve. Achieving that remains the mission of the Fire Brigades Union. Throughout our history, we have shaped the modern fire and rescue service. In the early years of the last century, firefighters received no sick pay, no pensions. Across the UK, training was insufficient and inadequate. Firefighters faced fires in woefully inadequate protective equipment. Decent wages and pensions, the right to training and to equipment, none of these were easily given to us. We had to campaign and fight for it. And together we achieved progress. But this remains a constant struggle. And sadly, nothing won remains guaranteed for all time. In 1958, two firefighters, Jack Fortwells and Richard Stocking, died tackling a blaze at Smithfield Market here in London. In the subsequent inquiry, the Fire Brigades Union identified serious issues with breathing apparatus and with safety procedures. Our union worked to develop and implement new national standards, and these procedures have saved countless lives, and indeed many of the key principles developed then are still protecting firefighters today. Procedures and equipment which are part and parcel of the everyday working lives of every firefighter in the UK arose precisely because of the deaths of those two men and because of the subsequent work of their friends and colleagues and the Fire Brigades Union. Together, we achieved lasting change. And together, we can achieve much more. Together, today, we are addressing new areas of risk, including mental health, risks of toxins and the risk of cancer. These are huge areas where much work remains to be done. And we are proud that our new lottery is funding a major piece of research into the risks posed to firefighters from the contaminants faced at operational incidents. I ask you to look for a minute at the banner above me. It honours all the firefighters killed in the line of duty as recorded by the Firefighters Memorial Trust. Our most recent case, Brother Stephen Hunt from Greater Manchester. And I ask us to take a moment to think about these cases, these individuals, the names, all of whom had friends and family. And our Greater Manchester members have asked us to take a moment to think about other members who may not be recorded. Brother Lee Gaunt, who sadly took his own life as a result, in our view, directly of an operational incident at which Stephen Hunt died. So the numbers may indeed be greater than we currently record. I have myself been involved in many of the most recent cases over the past 35 years, and particularly since being elected to this position in 2005. However, if I may, I would like to take a moment to mention two names in particular. Terry Hunt and David Stokoe were killed at the Gillinder Street fire in Bromley by Bow on the 10th of July 1991. I knew both of them. Terry had been on my watch, Green Watch Kingsland. He was both a colleague and a friend. I was appointed by the union, along with Jim Fitzpatrick, who unfortunately is not able to be here today, to carry out the investigation for the union. It is something that I will never forget. I remember the day itself very well. I also remember the devastating impact of that day on the families concerned, and indeed of every single person who attended that fire. 2 lives were lost, and many, many lives were altered forever, my own included. And that experience certainly shaped my understanding of what our union needs to do in such terrible circumstances. And I think it has helped to shape some of the things we've done in recent years and in relation to the preparation for this event today. We owe it to our fallen brothers and sisters and to every person killed in fire and disaster in the UK to learn the lessons from such tragedies. We also owe it to them to ensure that this is not simply a case of paying lip service to lessons learned. There is no value in reporting lessons learned only to learn exactly the same lessons in another tragedy several years later. Lessons must be applied. So despite improvements, the battle for safety remains at the heart of what we do. And sadly, if we look at history, the history of the Fire and Rescue Service in this country and elsewhere, improvements in public safety often only come about as a result of disaster and the loss of large numbers of lives. In response to tragedies, the Fire Brigades Union has played a vital role in establishing and defending fire safety standards in the UK. In the 50s and 60s of the last century, people were dying in their places of work, in fires, in shops and factories with barred windows and locked exit doors. And we fought for laws that protect people from that, and we've fought for the laws that protect people today. Now we all expect to be protected from fire wherever we work, shop, or sleep. This expectation is something we, as a union, defend and should be proud of. But in recent decades, standards we took for granted have come under question. At Grenfell Tower, we saw the terrible risk that fire still poses. There is no room for complacency, but there has been complacency. We will continue to campaign on behalf of firefighters and communities to make the firefighting profession safer and to make our citizens safer from fires and other risks. We also think today about firefighters across the world. We have some international guests here today. We all have some knowledge of firefighting in various parts of the world. And I can say this with confidence, that one element that has improved the effectiveness, the professionalism and the standards in fire services in this and other countries has been the existence of independent trade unions representing firefighters. Without any doubt, where trade unionism exists, our profession performs better, far better, both for the communities we serve and for firefighters, than when trade unions do not exist or are not allowed. As we look to the future, I think back to our union's founding principles of compassion and human solidarity. Today, we require that compassion and that solidarity as much as ever. Our profession is indeed a humanitarian one. Caring is in the job of firefighters. It should also be the obligation of all leaders. And I ask those present and those not present to listen to the voices of firefighters and their organisation. Our centenary has given us the opportunity to look at what we've achieved, but also at what we haven't achieved. Looking back can help us to look forward and to see the possibilities for change. Change delivered through our actions together. Today we commemorate the determined contribution and the personal sacrifices made by generations of FBU members and officials. They built, from generation to generation, the modern fire and rescue service, and they helped to improve the safety of our communities. I think of the firefighters defending our cities during the Blitz, firefighters saving lives after terror attacks, firefighters rescuing families from floods across the UK, firefighters risking their lives at Grenfell Tower in the most terrifying of conditions. And I say again, that is what trade unionists look like. That's what Fire Brigades Union members look like. Men and women, proudly, resolutely, and although they wouldn't say it, I will, bravely doing their jobs. Today, we show our respect for the dedication and professionalism of firefighters, of FBU members who have served their communities in the past and continue to protect people across the UK today. We, of course, do not control all the circumstances in which we operate. Nevertheless, understanding our past, discussing our present, and operating together in unity, we can help to shape the future. The past we inherit, the future we can build. On behalf of our union, I would like to thank all of you for your support. I would like to thank all the guests, particularly those from outside of the Fire Brigades Union, from the devolved governments, ministers, chief fire officers and others, for coming here today to help us to celebrate and commemorate. I thank those watching around the country. This is indeed a truly historic moment for our union, and it is our pleasure to share our history with you. I would like you all to join us after the service for our reception at the Folly, which is just across London Bridge. I hope to see you all there. Thank you very much for your support.